48 hours before the world's largest vaccination program will officially begin on the 16th of January, the one question on everyone's mind perhaps is the vaccine safe and will it bring a distinct end to the pandemic? Now, speaking with me on the show today are two individuals who have been at the forefront of India's fight to battle coronavirus and COVID-19. I'm speaking today with Dr. Krishna Ella and Suchitra Ella of Bharat Biotech that is producing the co-vaccine, one of the two vaccines that have been given the nod by the Indian government and will be part of the first phase of rollouts. Now, co-vaccine and the fact that it has been given a nod is not without controversy, and many of you probably have already heard about this. The reason is that it has been given the green signal even before its clinical trials in phase 3 have ended. Joining us today to answer every question you have possibly on your mind is both Dr. Krishna Ella and Suchitra Ella. Thank you so much for speaking with us on ET Now. Let me begin with you, Dr. Ella, and just ask you the first basic simple question that people everywhere are questioning. Why should Covaxin be given in this first phase of the vaccination program if the clinical trials are not over yet?
I want to just say very clearly a few points, and very clearly, number one, safety. And probably we have well-established safety data with both monkey, hamsters, phase 1 human, phase 2 human, and phase 3 with the 26,000 people safety data. We have almost about 28,000 people safety data available. I don't think any other vaccine in India, which is licensed, will have that much safety data as we have it. So that's number one. So I want to say clearly this. The safety is well proven for Indian population with the Covaxin. That's number one. Number two, the people you are talking about the phase 3, what we don't have and all that. And I think, they should look at it, what we have. What we have, the best animal challenging studies. Why it is important, I'll tell you. People ask, is it not same thing as a human? And it is not. But here, monkeys are predictive efficacy data. Predictive efficacy. That means in monkey, we vaccinate. After 30 days, we give COVID live virus to the monkeys. So that shows whether it's protecting or not protecting the animal. That means that an antibody that is produced through the vaccine is giving an immunity against the challenge virus. That is shown both in monkeys and hamsters. We published. Number two, we have good safety data on phase 1 data. And coming to phase 2, robust immunogenicity data. We call 4-fold increase. That means from 0 to 4 times it can go immune response. That is a response we expect in immune response. Whatever immune response you produce in phase 2 is a clear indication for efficacy. But I'm not saying that it's enough. No. Whatever immune response is produced in phase 2 is going to have an impact in the efficacy data, and usually it is correlated. So usually in our WHO will come out correlative protective immune response. If that is declared in February, March, then I think we don't need a much more trial because that gives you whether where we are stands out. So please be assured that we have strong evidence in lot of angle, not just one angle. What is the phase 3 is happening? It's happening as a pandemic. If it is a regular vaccine, I would not have launched it. I would not even ask for it. Because in a pandemic, Government of India also gives a clear indication, page 186. I'll ask Tamanna. Ask me, please.
Yes, no, so I actually wanted to hear from Mrs. Ella also on this point and take forward some of the points you've made, because I know both of you are equal partners in this venture, and I think we'd like to hear from both of you as well. Mrs. Ella, some of the things that Dr. Ella has said, and I'm sure you agree with all of them, but my counter question, and this is what a layperson will ask today because all of us have gotten so involved with the vaccination process. If it works on animals, how do we know it works on humans as well? Could we have not waited till Feb or March till we have the phase 3 data? Right now, nowhere in the world do we have a similar example where actual vaccination is happening. Maybe apart from China and Russia, but that's not our standard. Nowhere else do we have an example where actual vaccination will happen without phase 3 data. So don't you think it's understandable that people are concerned in asking this question? And it's not casting any aspersions on anyone. These are just simple questions coming to mind.
Tamanna, to answer this question, which is very, very apt, there is no question or there is no doubt. As manufacturers, we are aware of the regulatory processes that are involved not only in this country, but we also are a part of many of the other countries' regulatory processes, including the WHO, which procures for almost about 70 to 80 countries of the world, and the independent countries that also procure from us directly for their immunization programs. So we do understand what are the normal procedures that are routinely followed for any vaccine that is out there, which is a pediatric vaccine or an adult vaccine. But this is not the normal time. This is a pandemic that we are in. The world has not seen anything like this before. No country ever before has made vaccines in 6 months or 9 months or under 12 months, except for the influenza vaccine, which happens every year in many parts of the world, which the strain changes and the vaccine manufacturers then are told what would be the strain and the new strain is manufactured. So this is probably the second instance for us as manufacturers, because in 2009, again, at that point of time when the H1N1 pandemic was kind of in a, coming to an alarming situation worldwide, the government of India, so as the other governments of the world, countries of the world, started stockpiling the pandemic flu vaccine for H1N1. And we have made a vaccine in India. 3 manufacturers were called in, and we were asked to make the vaccine to keep it as a national stockpile in case a pandemic would break out. So pandemic norms and rules and regulations are different from the normal scenario. Having said this, I'm not the government or the authority to make this kind of a statement, but I have a piece of paper with me, and so just to be clear and to have the maximum clarity on this, I just read it out of this for better, for being clear. The Gazette of India notification extraordinary. I think this was, the date is 2019, around, it was in the month of September, if I'm not wrong. This is clause 2, it is page of 186. Special situations for a new drug where relaxation, abbreviations, omission, or deferment of data may be considered. So depending on the categories and nature of new drugs to be imported or manufactured for sale or clinical trial to be undertaken under the new chemical entity or biological product, similar biologics, approved new drugs or new dosage forms or new indications or new route of administration or new strength of already approved drugs. So these are all the categories.
I understand. I understand that the legality is in place, and of course both of you have come well prepared after the whole barrage of questions. I ask a simple question, and this question is from the health worker who will be vaccinated on the 16th of January and will not possibly have a choice of which vaccine they get. There's possibly one which has done phase 3, there's one which hasn't. And the question will come from them that am I going to be okay if I get Covaxin? It's fairly simple. That's the question. And that needs a cogent answer.
Sure. Tamanna, I just read you that because that is the document by which the National Regulatory Authority of this country, the Ministry of Health, under the Government of India, the Drug Controller General's Office, with the committees in place, the Special Experts Committee, all of them have acted on the basis of this particular Gazette notification, which any country, that is the prerogative of the country or the government in place. It is not our prerogative. So please be clear on this, that as a manufacturer, we cannot, push anything or remove anything from the guidelines or the regulatory system of this country, because vaccines and pharma products are extremely regulated and driven by the statutory limitations and norms of the country. Our vaccine is safe because phase 1 human study has been conducted in 400 volunteers in 12 institutions across the country. The data has been submitted and was approved and accepted, upon which phase 2 clinical study was also then allowed to be conducted again in 400 volunteers across the country in 12 medical institutions, where immunogenicity has been proven. After which we go back to the drug regulator, because they have all this data with them, and we go back and tell them that now we will do the phase 3 trial. So the drug regulator, the National Regulatory Authority, then authorizes us as a manufacturer to proceed with the next phase of the trial, which shows the extrapolation of what we have done in 1,000 volunteers in phase 1 and phase 2 to study safety and immunogenicity is extrapolated in a larger population, and a larger bandwidth of population, which is the 26,000 volunteers which we have enrolled and written the protocols for, and that is what has been is being conducted right now.
Let me come to these volunteers.
Yeah, no, let me just finish one last
let me
line.
come to these volunteers, Doc.
Let me just finish a line for you, Tamanna.
Yes,
This is completely going on according to the guidelines and the protocols and the norms under the regulatory system. So there is so far no evidence or no data that is being that has shown that there is no safety in this for this vaccine. It is absolutely proven over and over again that the safety is of no question. There is no issue, and enough data has been submitted to the regulator as and when they require. In fact, almost even if they require on a daily or a weekly basis, that is what we as manufacturers have to do, and that has been followed and that has been done. Internationally, 5 publications or even more are going to be coming up, which shows the data, that safety data and the immunogenicity data has been internationally accepted.
No, I will leave it at that. I will leave it at that, because it comes to the same thing. I will leave it at that because it comes down to the same thing. It's possibly in another 6 weeks, this question will be moot. On another 2 months, this question will be irrelevant, whether the phase 3 clinical trials show that you're on the right track or not. The question always has been, why the rush? So that is a question which goes beyond Bharat Biotech, and clearly that's a wider one. Let me come to another important part, and Dr. Ella, I'm coming to you with this. There is no indemnity, we hear, for vaccine manufacturers, including yourself, for the vaccines which will be rolled out from the 16th of January. So as we understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong, if something wrong happens, if there's an adverse effect, you are liable. Can you explain to me to what extent you are liable and what this lack of indemnity actually means?
Just to back up before that, you asked me Covaxin, why should we take? I'll once answer a simple question. 28,000 people's safety is proven in India. Which other vaccine has proven the safety like that? Other than Covaxin. Number one. Number two, it's a pandemic vaccine. Do you want to save people? Jacob John, who is the father of Indian virology, he clearly said, first is safety is important, followed by efficacy. If you have safety, go for vaccinate them, and then efficacy can follow. Okay, so we are not pushing it. It's a pandemic vaccine. If it's a children vaccine, I would not do that.
We can't push
the pandemic vaccine. That's why we are doing this. So please, my humble request to correct that statement that it is a pandemic vaccine, pandemic problem. Okay, and also we are not bypassing that. We are doing phase 3. It's not that we're shortcutting. And this is the largest efficacy trial probably in the entire developing world. So I think do not compare us with other countries, because our regulatory system is much more stable and there's a provision in the law. And nobody wants to read the provision of the law.
The regulator takes.
They want to bypass that and talk about all other things, what we don't have. That's third one. Coming to indemnification, your question, I will tell you very clearly. As a vaccine manufacturers association, both Aadhar Poonawalla, us and all of them, we wrote to the ministry that we want indemnification like in US and Europe. US and Europe has got indemnification for vaccine, for adverse reactions. In US and Europe, both they have. Okay, we asked the same thing. All the as a manufacturers asked, not Indian company, not one company. All the manufacturers we wrote as a combined letter. That's all we asked. Nothing else in this. Okay,
So
that I want to put it very clearly on
government,
that.
right?
It's a vaccine manufacturers association.
No, my question is, can I confirm that vaccine manufacturers like yourself have not been extended indemnification? What does that mean? So if someone takes the vaccine and has an adverse effect, are you liable to pay for treatment? What is the extent of the liability?
No, I think that is decided by the drug controller department, drug controller. There are so many other committees are there. Ethical committees are there. 3 other committees will be there. They will go through, is it adverse reaction to the vaccine or not vaccine, or is it false cases? All that will be decided by the committees, not by me.
Ministry of Health.
I will not decide. The health committees are there, drug controller general, subject expert committee. There are so many 3-4 layers are there for that to decide. It is a procedure is set in this country. Even our clinical trial, when anybody is affected, there is a committees for that to decide. Not by me.
Independent committees.
Independent committees, not by us. We will
For
not decide
indemnity,
that.
can I confirm that? Can I confirm that as of today, there is no indemnity that
That
vaccine
is
makers
government's
have?
call, not our.
It's a government call.
It is not our purview.
Okay.
It is not our purview, Tamanna. It is the purview of the government of India to take that call. As manufacturers, it's not under our purview to say or discuss or, we have written to them asking that maybe they should also consider it for a country like ours if they can. And that is the call that the government would have to make.
Okay. Mrs. Ella, can you tell me about Bhopal? And now 2 parts of the question, of course. The death of a person who was a part of the clinical trial. You all have put out press releases on that, but I think for the benefit of our viewers, it's important if you respond to the concerns that arose from there. And then, of course, I will come to the question of consent of those participating in the clinical trials. But let me begin with the death of the person who was undertaking the clinical trial.
Okay. Okay, Tamanna, we have explained this also prior. Dr. Ella had a very large press conference which invited almost many of the media houses in the country, and this was, I think, done earlier this week. I'm sorry, I'm a little bad with my dates now because of I mean, we are in a kind of like a mode which is something very new and different and challenging for all of us in terms of the preparedness for this pandemic. But having said that, I don't mind repeating it once again for you. The death of the volunteer in Bhopal was informed to the drug controller, to the National Regulatory Authority. That was also, again, at this point of time, the data or the information about the the phase 3 trial is a double-blinded, randomized double-blind study. So where we don't know whether this was a placebo arm of the trial or the volunteer was the volunteer in the vaccine arm. So that also is not known and not proven. And also the person after, it was maybe 10 days or so after receiving the first, being a part of the being a participant in the trial. So there is no concrete evidence or anything to say that the person was vaccinated with the vaccine or the placebo itself. So there itself, the ground is not at all clear. After 10 days or so, there has been an incident. This incident has been reported by the concerned site to the National Regulatory Authority, to the committees that review it. And the FIR in this particular case has also been, the government hospital to where the deceased person has been taken, has stated that, the FIR has stated that there has been poison found in the system, and the cause of death was heart attack. So this is what the FIR states, and we are here in Hyderabad, and this complete follow data or the information goes from the site and the company that is monitoring the clinical trials, which is IQVIA, which is a third-party clinical research organization, one of the largest in the world, that follows up and also does all the monitoring of all the protocols of the study that is in place. They have communicated and informed and sent all the reports that is required as per the purview of the National Regulatory Authority. Henceforth, we have been, there is no other issue pointing out, saying that this is a vaccine-related incident. So that there is, and there was no, I think there was no considerable reason even for the national regulator to they have to take a call. If they tell us to stop, we will stop it. If they have allowed the trial to continue based on all the information, the evidence, and the proof that has been sent to them from the concerned hospital and the police and the entities involved there. And this is only the same protocols apply across the country. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
No, absolutely. But, I will ask you about cases related to Bharat Biotech only. No, that's all right. Let me come to the question of informed consent. And Dr. Ella, why don't you field this one? Several ground reports now saying that those who are volunteering in the trials being paid 750 rupees, many of them didn't know that they were part of a clinical trial. They thought they were getting a vaccine. Then when they had adverse impact, they did not know who to speak to, and a lot of murkiness around how the trials were conducted. Now, you'll possibly say that there's a third party who does the trial, but at the end of the day, don't you think that the question will come to you, sir? Because it's your vaccine.
Tamanna, this clinical research is a budding phase in India. I think the first clinical trial of massive trial is happening in this country. Okay? Everybody want to mudslinging on this. Okay? Nobody understand what the clinical research is important, why it is important also. Okay? Number one. Number two, will anybody for 750 rupees, will bribe somebody? They were looking for whether I paid 10,000 rupees for volunteer to get them into the trial. That was they were looking for. They couldn't find that. 750 rupees, what we give is a meager allowance for bringing them to travel to come to the hospital. Nobody can be induced. We are doing 26 centers all over the country. Can we do that? And it is ethical committee permission. And we got 750 rupees approved. It is not unofficial. It is all official figures. I don't know, people just want to throw stones on us. That's not fair. Okay. And also, you look at one company European trial, 23,000 people done clinical trial, 5 deaths. Not due to vaccine, I'm talking. Okay. It's supposed to be reported. Pfizer, 43,000, 6 deaths. Moderna, 30,000 people, 13 deaths. We clearly say the death may not be due to vaccine, maybe heart attack, maybe somebody got a COVID attack, they died. So all that has to be reported. That's a process. For somebody who died because of poison and heart attack, and they throw stones on us, I think, we don't deserve that. And if they are the sort of people who are writing to the Prime Minister and all that, they should look at positively. What can be done to the country? We will never do without a consent of a volunteer. And I said, we have hired a multinational company because third party, because we don't want to be. If I've done that, yes, people again will suspect me. I put a third party, a professional organization. Okay. If we don't trust that also, then where do I go? I don't understand this. Everything is suspicious in this country. Why people are so negative?
Let me just set the tone. It is, no, it's not. Dr. Ella, as a journalist, I must ask you questions that people want to know about. And it's not
Sure.
about throwing stones. It comes also from a huge respect of what you have
Please.
achieved. But the fact that there is so much scrutiny and you're sitting here and answering those questions is important. It's important for the conscience of this nation. It's important for people to have faith to go ahead and take the vaccine. And that's really the important part, because people want to get on with their lives and take a safe vaccine. So the goal is the same. Let me now come to capacities and pricing. Let me come to capacities and pricing. You've answered the question on safety. You've answered the question on death. You've answered the question on trials and informed consent. 55 lakh doses have been ordered so far by the Indian government at a rate of 295 rupees per shot. Two-part question for you, Mrs. Ella. First, some are questioning why your shot is priced a little above Covishield at 200 rupees. And second, what is the extent of capacity you can scale up to? Because the requirement is going to be much, much larger.
Tamanna, the pricing need not be compared. There is an oral polio vaccine and there is an injectable polio vaccine. Okay, there is a rotavirus vaccine which is an oral vaccine, and there may be a rotavirus vaccine which is not an oral vaccine. It can be an injectable vaccine. So the platform technologies or the process technologies, every product has its own background behind it, the administration or the inputs that go into it, the facilities that are required for it. We are developing a vaccine from scratch. That has happened in India. So this is only the Covaxin which has demonstrated that it was a live SARS-CoV-2 virus which was transported from NIV Pune by road in the end of April and first week of May, physically by our scientists to Hyderabad. And then that is where this whole vaccine development process started for us. So this is from scratch. This is the first rollout of the vaccine. In fact, if you can look at the order again, I think out of the 55 lakh doses, 16 lakh doses have been given as a free of cost to the government. So if you take off that 15 lakh doses and we recalculate it to the 35 lakh doses, or approximately, I'm rounding it off. So the 295 comes back to your 200 or 210 or 220. So, I mean, this is by far, I don't know, there is no difference now. To me, there is no difference. It is the same tariff or cost or outflow that the government is going to have to pay for procuring the COVID vaccines. And both manufacturers so far in India have been very cognizant of the fact that the pricing is being bare minimal compared to the $40 and the $37 in countries like America and in Europe. We all know the pricing in Britain also.
Right.
So this is very, by far the lowest. And I don't know whether we can go any lower than this.
Do you?
Yeah.
Now, do you know whether there will be more orders, and is there capacity to fulfill them? Even if you look at the initial number of vaccination and doses procured between the two, it seems like a drop in the ocean compared to the huge number of people who need to be vaccinated. Even if I look at 27 crore people who need 2 shots each, we're sitting on a very small amount of supply. Dr. Krishna Ella has said you will have 70 million doses in 2021. But how soon? How soon can you scale up?
Tamanna, we have 3 phases. Production facility 1, what we are producing right now. The production number 2, we just got permission to start the production. We started production. That is second phase, second facility. Third facility will also be operational by end of this month. So when you have all 3, we'll have zoomed the production capacity. Trust me.
We would be easily able to scale more than 200 million doses, Tamanna, because these are facilities which are just as we speak. One was ready, luckily for us, because nobody knew that the pandemic was coming. And in fact, because internally, as a very technology-driven company, and the vision that we have for developing vaccines for many of these infectious diseases, that the very first facility was ready and created, so we could easily get this production road started out, and we could be ready for a quick rollout like this. But the second facility and the third facility, as just now explained by Dr. Ella, is also going to be operational. Again, all these facilities are not something that I switch on the button and say that it is ready to go. The National Regulatory Authority, the CDSCO's office from Delhi and from the state offices have to come. They inspect, they audit, they ensure that the documentation is right, the equipment is all commissioned, installed, and all that is reviewed, and the permission is given for a facility to be up and running. So this is a very regulated process that we are talking about. And it is not, unfortunately,
200 million doses by when?
For a year. Don't worry about that, Tamanna. We will keep producing it.
Going up more.
It is a cyclic process. We may not have to, we can't tell you more than this at this point of time. We have 3 facilities across this country.
Okay.
So we can swing into action and move into another state where we have facilities much larger than this if required. So, and the government has taken this in a phased manner. So we as manufacturers will know how to rework or backwork those numbers and see whether how much of the production and the volumes can be met with our facilities, and if required, if we have to add more. In our particular case, I can speak for Bharat. We have 2 other facilities, vaccine manufacturing facilities in 2 other states of India. So I leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. What is this vaccine going to cost in the open market for private buyers once the first phases of government rollout is done? We know that the other candidate is going to cost about 2,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees a shot. What are you going to be priced at?
No, I want to, Tamanna, one thing I want to tell. The platform technology differs in costings, okay? Inactivated vaccines, less yield, but safety profile is extremely good. That's why it's expensive. Okay, please. Any live vaccines usually is cheaper. Cost of production is cheaper. It's not that people cheap. The cost of production is cheaper. Okay, so therefore, inactivated vaccine usually little higher than any other vaccines. Please underline this. If I bring nasal vaccine, it will be cheaper. That's different because live vaccine again. Okay, so therefore the price, it all depends on the supply, demand, and market competition, and also technology changes that is happening in the globally. All the parameters are taken into consideration. So I think it is immature, but I can tell you, Indian vaccine manufacturers are very aggressive. They're all very highly efficient manufacturers.
Sir, you must give me a ballpark figure. Dr. Ella, you must give me a ballpark figure. You must give me a range, sir, because I have an idea of what is out there. I know how much the Moderna cost, the Pfizer cost. At least give me, are we looking at a slightly higher price than 1,000 rupees a shot? Can I say that?
But Tamanna, Moderna and Pfizer is also not in the open market. It is only through the government distribution mechanisms in those countries. So you can put it in the same ballpark.
Fair enough.
If we say that $20 for a Moderna, yes, you can put it in a ballpark in that same manner, because our standards, whether it is India or the US or a Europe manufacturer, the testing protocols and the quality control tests, everything is the same. Whether we go to a WHO, it is not that an Indian vaccine is cheaper and an American vaccine is expensive. All of us go through all these parameters on a very uniform basis. So you can place us, if you want, for a private market, which is 6 months or 9 months down the line. We don't know, because we as manufacturers don't know yet when the private authorization is going to come about.
I want to say that when we have the second facility, third facility activated, we'll get rough estimation of the costings afterwards. Just bear with us.
Because we are not ready for that situation right now. But you can compare us on par with...
but ma'am, clearly there must be a figure in mind. There must be a figure in mind. I'm not going to hold a gun to your head if it's a little higher or lower. I just want to get a sense. I just want to
Please
get a sense if
understand,
it's going to be cheaper, more expensive.
this is not a 5-year development process. We are working on the hour. When processes are changing, data is getting accepted, new facilities have to be brought in, when capacities can change. I mean, there are so many factors that are involved. This is not a plug and play business. I think please bear with the life sciences industry that this is not plug and play. It will have to be, and it's live. It's a real-time studies and real-time data, real-time batches going wrong on us. All kinds of things happen. It is a live process driven industry 24/7. So definitely we will think of these numbers. We can assure you that we have not, as Indian manufacturers and as Bharat, our pricings have always been the most affordable and reasonable worldwide. So if we cannot do it, then I don't think any other country or out there has done cheaper vaccines than India, the Indian manufacturers. So please take that from us in a very positive spirit. I'm saying this to you.
Okay. I'm going to ask just one last question because I know you have a packed schedule as well. Dr. Ella, this is for you. Once the vaccination rolls out, and this is what people are wondering, is this going to end? Is the vaccine the panacea of all problems as far as COVID-19 is concerned? Do we know yet how long your vaccine will protect people from contracting the infection?
If you're talking generally COVID vaccines, all COVID vaccines, you're talking about it?
No, ours she's asking, I think.
Are you, Tamanna, you're talking about generally all the COVID vaccines?
So, two parts. Yeah, no, I'm asking about your vaccine. I'm asking about your vaccine, Dr. Ella. Will your if I take your vaccine, will I be protected from contracting COVID-19 and for how long?
I have only 120 days data, not beyond that. 120 days, yes. As we go along, we keep collecting data. The people who have been vaccinated in phase 1, phase 2, we keep drawing the samples and monitoring their neutralization antibodies, how long it's continuing. Besides, we also have T cell response. That means memory cells. We created with the new adjuvant in this, we created a sort of a memory cells. We assume, only assume, please, it may have long-term immunity, but we don't have a data yet. But right now, we have only 120 days data. I don't think anybody has got a long-term data for any vaccines in the world today. Okay, so please underline that it's a pandemic vaccine. It just came. We need to know. We'll keep following up with people.
Science will continue, Tamanna. The data analysis will continue for even up to a year or even more, because our shelf life in normal circumstances, our shelf life of the vaccines that we make for pediatric vaccines and for adult vaccines are at least 2 years. So we keep continuing to analyze that data and keep observing what, the test the results until that point of time. And in most vaccines, it is lifetime protection. But this is a pandemic vaccine, and at the same time, it is something similar to an influenza, which happens in many parts of the world where the strains are changing. Now already we have heard of a mutation that has happened. So again, people are worried whether the vaccines work for that or not. So this is like the ball is still rolling. The ball, it's not like a polio where 30, 40, 50 years ago, the vaccines were made, Tamanna. I'm just saying it for the ease of understanding. Please don't get me otherwise. Polio is something known to the whole world. And for 30, 40 years, the vaccines are being made and we know the endpoints. So accordingly, the vaccine has been fine-tuned to address that infection, or a rabies for that matter. Our own rotavirus is also known to the world for about 15, 20 years now. And we became the third company in the world to make a rotavirus vaccine. So we know the endpoints, but here, this is just it is just opening up every day. I mean, nobody expected that could be a mutation, but that has happened now. So we have to see again, how do we tweak our vaccines to give more protection, better protection,
we have more
longer
problem,
protection.
We have more problem expected from South African.
We don't know now. That has also again come up. So we will have to see whether those strains have to be also checked analyzed.
Will your vaccine work against the South African mutation?
We don't know.
We don't know yet. As of yet, we don't know. We wouldn't be able to answer those kinds of...
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. We wouldn't know. Thank you so much, Tamanna. Nice talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
No, I
Bye-bye.
appreciate you being candid. I appreciate you being
Absolutely.
candid and answering all of these questions that everyone wants to know. Thank you, Dr. Krishna
Certainly.
Ella and
Thank
Suchitra
you.
Ella of Bharat Biotech.
Thank
that is
you so
producing
much.
the co-vaccine. We'll take a very short break here and be right back.